Good morning, children. Welcome to Momita ma'am's class. Today, our topic of discussion is Geography, Chapter 1, Resources and Development. Now, to begin with, first of all, we should understand does the word resource mean. Now, resource is something that satisfies our need. According to the definition of your book, it says resource is something that, number one, satisfies our need. Number two, which is technologically accessible. Number three, which is economically feasible. And number four, which is culturally acceptable. Now, what does all these four things mean? So resource is something that satisfies our need. Whatever we get from nature and whatever we use to satisfy our need is known as resource. Like, say for instance, we are getting water, right? We drink water, so water is a resource. We get sunlight. Sunlight is a resource. We use soil to plant our to plant trees. So soil is a resource. So anything that satisfies our need is termed as resource. Now, this is a very short definition. However, resources also needs to fulfill these three criteria, which are technologically accessible. Like, there is something in nature. We know nature has a particular resource, but that doesn't mean that we can have access to that. Whatever nature has, we should have access to that. Say for instance, today the whole world is suffering from ozone depletion. Ozone means O3. So O3 is being broken down, that is, ozone is broken down. Now we know that our earth is made up of 76% of water, which again is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. But is it possible for us to break the ocean water and liberate oxygen in the atmosphere and solve the problem of ozone depletion? No, we can't. That is not possible for us. So we know that the resource is there. However, we lack the technology to access it. So resource, anything that satisfies our needs, but it should also be technologically accessible. That is, we should have access. We should have our technology should be sufficient or enough to help us reach the particular resource or help us get the particular resource. Now, third, economically feasible. Now, what does it mean, economically feasible? The word economically feasible means something that we can get, we can make profit out of which. Now, say for instance, you want to mine gold. You invested, say, 1 crore rupee or 10 crore rupee to make a mine there. You extracted the gold, but you saw that the ore which consisted of gold were of very poor quality. That is, the rocks contain very little amount of gold. As a result of which, when you sold the gold in the market, you invested 10 crores, you earned only 8 crores. So you made a loss. So the resource is there, but the amount that needs to be invested to get that resource, we won't get it back after selling that. So that in this case, we don't term those things as resources, because we are not going to invest our money on that where we are not being able to make any profit. So number one, satisfies our need, technologically accessible. Number three, economically feasible and culturally acceptable. Resource, whatever resource we are getting, it should be culturally acceptable. I'll give you an example, a very crude example. Now, say for instance, in some country, dogs are eaten, their flesh is eaten, right? Though it's a very bad example, I don't like this example, but yet dogs are eaten in some countries. So in that country, dog is a resource. It is helping the people to satisfy their hunger. We have many dogs here that we cannot term that they are our resource. We cannot use that, we cannot eat that, because that is restricted in our culture. So I hope I've been able to make these points clear. Resource is something that satisfies our need, which is technologically accessible, we should have, that is, we should have technology to reach that resource or extract that resource out of nature, which is economically feasible. That is, after getting that the resource, we should make a economical profit. Economically it should give us profit, and finally it should be culturally acceptable. Anything we are using which is not accepted in our culture is not a resource. Fine. Now the second thing, how do we, this is all about resource. What is resource? Now how do we get about to resource? How do we reach our resource? How do we extract our resource? Now human being, this diagram is also there in the beginning of your page. You will see human being is at the middle, and then you have technology, institution and physical environment. What does this diagram mean, signifies? Human being interact with their physical environment. Say for instance, there is a mine. Mine is a physical environment, or there is a forest. Forest is our physical environment. We need wood. We need a lot of wood. Now it is not possible to uproot the tree with our hands. We are not giants. So what we need is technology. We should use our technology to cut those trees to get wood, or to make a mine, dig out a mine and extract the mineral that we need, right? So human being react with their physical environment with the help of technology, and after that they make an institution. Institution, what is institution? You dig it out and then there is proper setup, infrastructure. There is an institution which will process the thing that you have taken out, and finally you can get that resource. So how do we get resource? Human being interact with physical environment with the help of technology, and they set up an institution, and finally we get the resource. So I hope I have been able to make you understand these two things, definition of resource and the meaning of this diagram. Now the third thing, this tells us about the classification of resources. Now you see, resources can be divided into two kinds, natural and human. Now our topic of discussion today, we are going to discuss about the natural resource. So we would concentrate on this side. Now natural resource can be further classified into renewable and non-renewable. Okay. Now what do you understand by renewable natural resources? Renewable natural resources refer to the things which can be renewed again and again, which are never ended, like sunlight, solar energy, wind energy, water energy, etc. These are all examples of renewable resources. Now renewable resources can be continuous or biological. Now what is continuous? Renewable resources which will never end, no matter how much we use. Say for instance, solar energy. Can you end solar energy, or can you reduce the amount of solar energy? No matter how much you are using, it will be continuous. There is no end to that. Biological renewable resources refer to that part of renewable resources which gets diminished or which is reduced if you use it constantly. With constant use, it is reduced. That is known as the biological renewable resources, like natural vegetation and wildlife. See, natural vegetation and wildlife, these resources, they'll keep on multiplying themselves, provided you give them a time to multiply. If you keep on cutting the trees constantly without allowing them to regrow, one day will come when the natural vegetation would be exhausted. Similarly, wildlife also, if the people keep on hunting the wildlife, one day a particular species would become extinct, right? Now our next one is non-renewable natural resources can be described under two heads, recyclable and non-recyclable. Now as the name suggests, non-renewable, it means the resources once exhausted, you cannot get it back. Once the resources is exhausted, there is no way you can get it back. Now again, this can be divided into two kinds, recyclable and non-recyclable. Recyclable non-renewable resources are those which you can recycle again and again. The amount is constant. Say for instance, the amount of gold. Gold would not be produced. The amount of gold in nature is constant. But you can use the gold to make earrings. The same gold can also be used to make a ring. With the same gold you can also make a chain. Similarly, tin is a recyclable natural resource. You use the tin to make a can, you use the same tin to make a sheet. You can recycle the resources again and again. Non-recyclable are those resources which once used is exhausted forever. There is no way you can get it back. Like coal, thermal power, fossil fuels like petroleum, oil. The amount is fixed, it won't increase with time. So if these resources are exhausted, they are exhausted forever. Now, human resources can be divided into structure and institutions, that is the building, monuments, roads, houses, buildings which you make, and quality and quantity, that is human efficiency, human quality, human quantity, right? So in this here I have explained you three things: resources, definition of resources, how we come across resources, and the classification of resources. Now our next topic of discussion is classification of resources. We have done one classification where we have divided the resources according to human and natural, and in natural we have seen how the resources are divided into renewable and non-renewable. But here we are going to classify the resources into under more heads. Now first of all, origin. On the basis of origin, we can divide resources into biotic and abiotic. Now what do you understand by biotic and abiotic resources? Biotic resources refer to the living resources like forests, wildlife, etc. Abiotic resources refer to non-living resources like sunlight, air, water, etc. soil. Now on the basis of origin, we can divide resources into biotic and abiotic, that is living or non-living. Another way in which we can divide resources is on the basis of exhaustibility, that is how quick or how slowly they are going to be exhausted, that is they are going to be finished or ended. Under this head we have divided resources into renewable and non-renewable. As you know, renewable resources refer to those resources which can be used again and again and they are never exhausted, like sunlight, air, solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, geothermal energy. These are all examples of renewable resources. And non-renewable resources refer to those resources which, if used once or if exhausted once, there is no way you can get it back, like coal, natural gas, oil, petroleum. These are all examples of non-renewable resources, right? Now the third head under which we can classify resources is ownership, that is who is the owner of a particular resource, right? Under this head we have divided resources into individual, community, national and international. Now what do you understand by all these things? Now individual resources are our own personal resources, like our car, our house, any building that we have made. These are all example of individual resources wherein one person or a group or family member or a group of individual is the owner. Community resources refer to those resources which are used by all the members of a community. Say for instance, you have a park in your community. All the children of every household can go and play there. Similarly, the hospital. All the people, all the residents of an area can use the hospital. Similarly, library. Many people can go to the library and take the benefits of reading more and more book. So these resources are all examples of community resources. hospital, a pond, or say library or park. These are examples of community resources in which all the members of the community can take the benefit from from community resources. Next is our national resources. Now what are national resources? Resources which belong to the nation or a country. Say for instance the roadways, the railways. These are examples of national resources. The coastline of a country, national resources. International resources refer to those resources which are enjoyed by the whole world, right? Now if you in your book, if you open to page number 2, you would get the examples of national, international resources. See, the oceanic resources beyond 200 nautical miles of exclusive economic zone belong to an open ocean, and no individual country can utilize these without the concurrence of the international institution. The book says so. Now what does this mean? Now say for instance this is the coastline of India. Okay, now this is the coastline. 200 kilometers of the coastline, 200 nautical miles belong to the nation. That is, till here it is international resources, 200 miles, 200 nautical miles. But after that, these places, they are the, after 200 nautical miles, it is open sea. Open sea referred to what? Now these areas can be utilized by the whole world. And examples of international resources, and these are national resources. So 200 nautical miles beyond the country's coastline is the example of national resources, whereas beyond that is international resources. All the country can use these places. I hope I have been able to make you understand this thing. Now this place, this 200 nautical miles is known as exclusive economic zone, right? Now, so you understood what is individual, what is community, national and international resources. Now we would shift to status of development, that is classification of resources on the basis of status of development. Now what are these things? First is potential resources. Now what do you understand by potential resources? Now potential resources refer to those resources where there is potential or chance of growth of a particular resource. Say for instance in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, there is vast potential of developing wind energy, but we don't need so much of energy, so till date we have not started using these resources, the resources in wind resources of Gujarat or Rajasthan. That is potential. We can use any time we want, but there is no need, so we are not using it. Second is developed resource. It refers to those resources which are already developed and which are being in use. We are already using those resources. They are termed as developed resource. Third is stock. So developed, already in use. Now what is stock? Stock is those resources which is present, but we do not have the technological we don't have the technology to access those resources. No technology to access. No technology to access. The same example which I had given you in the beginning. If there is ozone depletion in the atmosphere, we do not have the technology to break down ocean water and release or liberate oxygen in the atmosphere and cure the ozone hole, right? So that is an example of stock. Finally, we have reserves. Now, what are reserves? Reserves are, see, people get confused with potential energy and reserves. Reserves also means we have those energy in our resource, in our reserve, but we are not using it. Now, what is the difference between stock and potential energy and reserves? Now, potential resources are those resources which there is chances but we are not using it. In future, if need come, we will use it. Reserve is we have reserved it for emergency. So reserves are those resources which are reserved for emergency. See, there is enough of natural oil, coal, but we have always reserved some amount of some amount of petroleum, natural gas for emergency situation, like if there is war, we would immediately start taking up, mining up those things, those oil, natural oil. Okay, so these are the 4 ways in which we can classify the resources. Now, our next topic of discussion is major problems of resources. Now, first is depletion of resources to satisfy human greed. We are constantly depleting resources, like we are cutting down forests, we are using underground water in excess amount. All these things we are doing. Why? Don't think that we are depleting the resources to satisfy our needs. We are depleting the resources to satisfy our greed. We want more and more, as a result of which we are constantly depleting the natural resources. Second is accumulation of resources in few hands. Few people have all the resources they want, others do not have anything. So this is termed as accumulation of resources in few hands, right? Now the third is indiscriminate. Now, accumulation of resources, to help you understand the topic further. Now, the rich farmers who have underground pumps, their crops will never suffer, they would never suffer. But think about the poor farmers. If the rain fails in a year, what will happen? Their crops will die, that will perish. Even they would suffer from drought. But the rich farmers who have access to their own tube wells, they can draw out underground water and irrigate their field. They won't suffer any problem. So thus we can say water is there for everyone's need, but only the rich people have access to that resource. So accumulation of resources in few hands, in the hands of the rich. The poor are not getting it. So these resources are not distributed in an equitable manner. Finally, indiscriminate exploitation of resources. We are constantly indiscriminately exploiting the resources without stopping, right? Now our next topic is sustainable development. So how do we solve these problems? By sustaining or holding the development. To sustain means to keep up, to hold something, not to let go. So development, if development faces these problems, depletion, overexploitation, then development would not be sustainable. It would be short-lived. So in order to make our development sustainable, what do we need to do? First is we need to develop our resources without damaging environment. So environment should not be damaged at any cost. Second is we should not compromise with the needs of the future generation. Now say for instance we are constantly opening up new factories, new industries, and for that we need a constant supply of thermal energy. So we are drawing out more and more and more and more of coal. What if the coal exhausts? Do you think these industries can be used in future? No. The industries, the machineries, they would become useless. So we should go for development. We should promote development, but at the same time we should also remember that we have to keep the resources intact. We need to reserve the development. We need to reserve our resources for future development. Now, in order to sustain our development, these are the two things: Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, which was held in 1992, in June 1992 rather, and more than 100 countries met in Rio de Janeiro of Brazil. And it was the first international Earth Summit. And why was this meeting held? The assembled countries which assembled there, they wanted to protect the environment from being overexploited, right? So the leaders, they signed a declaration on global climatic change and biological diversity. The Rio Convention endorsed a global forest principle and adopted Agenda 21 for achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. So they adopted such agendas which would help them to sustain the development. Now, what is Agenda 21? It is a declaration signed by the world leaders in 1992 at the United Nations Conference, which took place at Rio de Janeiro. It aims at achieving global sustainable development. It is an agenda to combat. So why was this signed? It was signed to fight against environmental damage, poverty, disease, and to seek global cooperation. So why was this signed? This was signed to fight against disease, disaster, environmental degradation, and it seeks mutual cooperation to protect our environment. So I hope I have been able to make you understand this thing. Now, our next topic of discussion is resource planning. Now, what we have divided it under the following categories. What is resource planning? Why should we plan our resource? And how can we go about planning our resources? Now, first is, what is resource planning? So, resource planning is a strategy which helps us to use our resources judiciously. Judiciously means intelligently. So planning our resources help us to use our resources very intelligently. And why do we need to plan our resources? Because see, in our country there is enormous diversity in the availability of resources. So if we do not plan our resource properly, then things will go waste. Say for instance, say in the states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, these places, they have rich deposits of coal and minerals, whereas Rajasthan has very good potential of solar and wind energy. Arunachal Pradesh has abundance of water energy, but it does not have infrastructural development. Now, because of all these things, resources should be used in a balanced way. If we are not being able to balance our resource properly, then what will happen? The resources would be wasted. Now, how can we plan our resources? So these are the three steps in which we can plan our resources. First is identification by surveying, mapping and measurement of resources. First of all, we need to identify where we can get which resources, which places are rich in which resources. First we need to plan out. Otherwise, we cannot go about the entire place hunting for resources. First of all, we need to find out by surveying, mapping and measuring where we can get a particular resource. Second thing is, we need to plan how to access the resource with our technology. First, we map. Okay, here we find our resource. Now we will see whether we have the technology to access the resource or not. If we have it, fine, we can go about that. And if we do not have it, then how can we use our technology? How can we develop our technology so as to access that resource? Third is to find out that that is this part is economical feasibility. Now I am investing, once again the same example, I am investing 10 crores to access a resource, but when I am selling it in the market, it's fetching me say 8 crores. So national development is not possible with that resource because my investment is more than my income, right? So these are the various things that we need to know about resource planning. What is resource planning and why do we need to plan our resource, and how can we plan our resources? Our last topic of discussion today is land utilization. Now these are the various, what do you understand by land utilization? Land utilization refers to the various ways by which we utilize our land. First we have forest land, that is the area where which is grown with forest. Second is land not available for cultivation, that is barren or wasteland where crops do not grow, the soil is not fertile enough where crops can be grown. Second is land put to non-agricultural uses, like you have houses, bridges, buildings, etc. Third is other uncultivated land excluding fallow land. So this is the fallow land, land not available for cultivation, that is fallow land is different, right? Sorry, fallow land is different. Other than fallow land, the land which are not available for cultivation, they include permanent pasture, the place where there is permanent pasture, that is animals graze there. Then tree crops and groves, where trees and crops are grown. And then you have cultivable waste land, that is the land which are left uncultivated for more than 5 years. Then we have fallow lands. Fallow lands again can be divided into current fallow, that is land not cultivated for 1 year or less than that. Other than current fallow land, that is land left uncultivated for 1 to 5 years. See, so uncultivated land can be categorized under 3 heads. Current fallow, that is the land not cultivated for 1 year or less than that. Other than current fallow land, that is land uncultivated for 1 to 5 years, and cultivable wasteland uncultivated for more than 5 years. Now we have net sown area and gross cropped area. Net sown area refers to the area which are sown with crops, which is counted only once. Say for example, we have 1000 hectare of land, that is my net sown area. And what is gross cropped area? If the net sown area is put to agriculture twice, then my gross cropped area would be 1000 hectare into 2, that is 2000 hectare. So the total area sown once and more than once is known as the gross cropped area. I hope the session has been interesting, and I also hope that I have been able to make you understand the topics which are discussed. Now in my next class I'll start with the various kinds of soil. Thank you.